Today, though, is the first day of Royal Ascot. Thom Malone is here. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Owen? Are you well?
Looking very dapper, Tom.
Oh, come on. Look,
I have seen this.
It's Royal Ascot. You have to put in a little bit of an effort. There'll be no crowds at Royal Ascot today, so I was pretty sad about not even having the chance to think about trying to wrangle a press pass and try and turn it into some sort of work. So I thought I'd put some sort of effort in.
Have you been to Royal Ascot?
I've never been to Royal Ascot, no. I have been to Ascot though, and it's a phenomenal racetrack, even just the size and scope of it. But the Royal Meeting itself is just different level.
Well, there's no Queen there today for the first time in 68 years. So does it go back to Ascot today?
It's just I don't know. No, they still call it the Royal Meeting, even though there won't be any royals in attendance. So there won't be any of that, the big parade beforehand, and who gets to sit beside who in the front carriage and all that sort of stuff. So they're not going to have any of that. But they have changed it up completely. Obviously, racing season's completely different this year. We've had no racing for 8 or 9 weeks. Then it's come back behind closed doors for a couple of weeks in the UK. They've push things on very quickly in the UK, and that's kind of knocked on to Ascot. So you don't have the kind of normal preps for horses. We've a lot less form to go on. And the 2-year-old schedule's been kicked down the week as well. So instead of normally starting with the Coventry Stakes, which is one of the feature races, that's just down later in the card, just to give those juveniles literally an extra 4 or 5 days just to get a bit of a prep run into them.
Will we get into the race card today, Tom? Two big ones today. As you said, they've kind of reorganised the schedule a little bit. That day one would ordinarily be 3 Group 1s, and it would be a fairly heavy-hitting day, whereas that's a bit different on this occasion.
Yeah, for me, day one of Royal Ascot is right up there with, the Tuesday of Cheltenham.
Right.
It's just, you have the Queen Anne and then, the Coventry, and you've got, you normally have St James's Palace Stakes as well, and the King's Stand, which is the big sprint. So, look, we'll talk about the Queen Anne, which is the mile race, the second race in the card. Gets up underway at 10-2. Circus Maximus, your favourite there for Aidan O'Brien. Again, it's his first time out, which is a slight negative, but he has won twice at that kind of trip. If you look at just horse, there might have a bit of a squeak at a slight price. It's Fox Chairman, but again, these are. The first day of Royal Ascot today. It's not. If you're going in hard, you maybe know something that might not be written on the page, from a sort of betting point of view. I'd maybe side with Fox Chairman in that Queen Anne Stakes, but it wouldn't be a massive surprise to me if Circus Maximus were to win. Aidan O'Brien has had his horses pretty straight for the start of the season, which would normally be, sort of the middle of the season, and they'd be flying. But, a little birdie told me about 3 weeks before racing came back that horses in Ballydoyle were working very, very hard. They were ready to go within 10 days when we were still sort of 20 days out from the season. So it's kind of no surprise that they were fit and raring to go. But look, Circus Maximus has a right chance. But just at the prices, I'd be with Fox Chairman.
I'm always interested in what the Daily Telegraph has to say about Royal Ascot. Marcus Armitage, in his piece today, says, this year's meeting, even without pomp and pageantry, is for the greater good of the sport and nation's well-being. So they're putting a lot of stock in this. Well, I went straight to their supplement today on Royal Ascot, and Terabellum is who their 2 tipsters are tipping for this one.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Terabellum in the Ribblesdale, is it? Sorry, Terabellum in the
Queen Anne Stakes.
In the Queen Anne. Yeah, look, Terabellum, the Godolphin horse, is in really good run of form, and it's understandable. The thing is as well, Frankie Dettori on board for John Gosden. That's, there's nothing wrong with that. She's a filly by Sea the Stars, obviously a winner last time out at Deauville. I wouldn't put you off her, but I think she's probably slightly vulnerable against some of the colts. I see she's gone favourite. Paddy Power actually have her favourite against Circus Maximus. So plenty of people following Marcus in the Telegraph.
It seems that way. Certainly I am. At 3:35 then, it's the King's Stand Stakes. Tom, talk us through this one.
Yeah, look, Batash is the fastest horse in Britain. There is no doubt about that. However, this is his 3rd run in the King's Stand, his 3rd year in a row, and he's never won it. He is a freak of a horse. He's phenomenally fast. There's a slight question mark that he doesn't like Ascot, and that he's gone to the track 3 times and he's lost all 3. He was an absolute superstar. We actually saw him in the Stallion Trail, and we covered it off the ball as well. He's now since retired, but he actually did the sprint double at Ascot last year. Batash finished second to him. That's some of the best form on offer. would you really be telling someone to get stuck in at 10 to 11, 5 to 6 odds on for a horse that's never, won at the track? That's a negative for me. It's kind of a no-bet race. If I was going to pop one up at maybe a little bit of a price, I'd go with Equilateral, who's a 12-to-1 shot, who just looks a nice, hardy sprinter, well able for his racing, and he was gelded over the winter. He's always had lots and lots of speed, and I just think Equilateral maybe might run into a place. And like I said, if Batash doesn't fire, as he hasn't done in the last 2 races here, maybe Equilateral can pick up the pieces in what will undoubtedly be a very, very strongly run race.
Well, this is really interesting conversation around a horse potentially showing up. Like, I was looking at Jim Crowley talking about Batash, saying when Batash does win, it's explosive. He's put in some monster performances. If he's on his A game, nothing can beat him. I'm not sure, I mean, the sample size is way too small at the moment here, but are we noticing that horses are responding better to a lack of crowds? I think, Nathan, you were making the point last week that at Newmarket, the 2,000 guineas was the fastest 2,000 guineas in a long, long time. I know Oisin Murphy said that there was a tailwind and there were perhaps other responses there, but if you're talking about a horse and their likelihood of reaching their A game, but with a lack of thousands and thousands of people there, I wonder, is there a greater chance of that A game being reached?
Well, there's certainly fewer things that can go wrong. I mean, horses are flight animals. So, the likelihood of some drunken idiot roaring in their face at a crowded race course, and when you take that out, that can happen. I mean, you take that out and sort of, thousands and thousands of people roaring and screaming as these horses who are, trained to the nines and up on their toes, and so many things can go wrong just even to get a horse to the racetrack, let alone when they're at the track. So taking the crowd element out of it for the horses is probably for the better, you'd imagine.
Well, that is...
in terms of the track and horses for courses and the challenge that Ascot presents compared to, say, Newmarket or Epsom or the other big flat circuits, what is the challenge that Ascot brings that's different to those other tracks? What are you looking out for? The way they call Royal Ascot the Flat Cheltenham would be a really strong analogy. It's a really stiff track. So, if you see this 5 furlongs, and the question mark for me about Batash and the 5 furlongs is that it's a stiff 5 furlongs, and if anything, Batash would prefer somewhere like York, where he's won before, a flat, fast track. That is to his benefit. Whereas it's a stiff uphill finish at Ascot, and that just puts a little bit more of a premium on stamina. So you see in the Queen Anne as well, you've got the likes of Circus Maximus, who you think would probably be more of a 10 furlong horse, really. But because here at Ascot, with the uphill finish, you just probably want a horse that definitely gets the trip and a little bit more, rather than one like Batash. That's what the question mark is about Batash. If this was at a different track against this lot, he'd be 2 to 5 or 1 to 3. So that the price you're getting about Batash at 10 to 11 or nearly even money is purely because of the track. It's not the opposition. And again, that's just a massive factor here. Like you said, the crowd coming out is actually a good thing for Batash, because in the past he's gotten quite hot at the start. He's messed up in the stalls. He's reared at the start. He's bolted. But that shouldn't affect sprinters too much. It's not like it's only 5 furlongs. They're only racing for less than a minute, so it's not such a big deal. But the track is a huge, huge feature, and generally over the course of the week, you'd always just be keeping an eye on someone that's won at the track before, like Cheltenham, and also keeping an eye on stuff that just have won over slightly further than the race they're in.
Any more tips for the rest of the day, Tom?
Yeah, like going in the Ascot Stakes, a horse called Dubawi 50, who's around about 14 to 1, has won off a similar mark in the past. By Dubawi, will definitely handle the quick going as well. In the first, a horse called Kaiser Soze, who Ryan Moore rides, is between 12 and 16 to 1, depending on what each way terms you get for yourself. But he's just one of these horses you think there's a day in him, and hopefully today is the day. And you want,
he doesn't have a limp, does
get him. Yeah. He's very difficult. Like I said, he's literally very difficult to catch, this Kaiser Soze guy. But he is actually an incredibly well-named horse, because he is frustrating and he's very difficult to get right. But he is just one of those kind of horses that he's going to turn up on one of these big field handicaps one day. And, hopefully today is the day. He's got a really nice draw as well. And the thing is with these big field handicaps, you kind of need something at a price. It's a nice draw. If the field splits into two, Ryan Moore is an option on Kaiser Soze because he's going to be produced late. So that's a positive as well. Horse of Aidan O'Brien's called Ennis Diamond, who's a really nice winner the last day. Runs in the Ribblesdale. Can't believe she's 10 or 12 to 1 in places. So that looks a really attractive price in the 225 as well. And we covered the King's Stand and the Edward VII. Oh yeah, one of my favourite horses in training. He's only 10 to 11, but Mogul runs in the Edward VII. Aidan O'Brien absolutely farms this race. And if you want to back one short price favourite today, Mogul or Batash, I think I'd probably side with Mogul over Batash. Just they're a similar price, but they'd be a couple. But again, it's with Royal Ascot this time around, the horses have only had 3-4 weeks of racing prep. It's a completely different proposition. And for me, I'll be looking at a few of those 16-to-1 shots for little each way bets, but I certainly won't be going crazy. I just need to have a look and see how things are panning out before we kick on for the rest of the week, because it runs till Saturday. They've actually added races into the card as well. So it's normally just a 6-race day, but they made it into a 7-race day to enhance it for us.
Well, sage advice as ever, Tom. Enjoy the racing today. Chat to you tomorrow.
Are you going to wear a hat at some stage?
I don't have a topper, Nathan. I rent a topper, so yeah, I know. I was actually considering getting one, so obviously not going to get one.
Hopefully we get you one for tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
And I'd like to see a new series where you dress up appropriately for whatever sporting occasion we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm hopefully going to be covering a lot of cricket as well, because
so if we're talking Munster hurling in November, I want you to have like ham sandwich and a flask of tea beside you.
Big red tracksuit.
Yeah.
Tom, good stuff.
Thanks, lads.